On today's edition of the show, many ask, with the recent xenophobic attacks in South Africa, is South Africa facing the burden of freedom? Elsewhere, Africans say that leaders are to blame for irregular migration in Africa. Join us after the break on The Agenda as we delve into the facts and the sides of the story.
Now on StarTimes Channel 465 is your #1 Christian and lifestyle channel, Love World Plus, meeting all your entertainment needs, trending, dedications, joyride, celebrity lounge, video tales, and so much more. For those of you who love current affairs, we've got you covered. News focus, strictly politics, the agenda, u.gov, and so on. Be sure to always be in the know with our informative programs, as we also get you settled with amazing documentaries like A Day in Your Neighborhood, Discover Africa. These will blow your mind. The youths and kids are not left out, as we have created a platform for them to speak, learn, and have fun. And to crown it all, we serve fresh, hot, and sizzling foods to feed your spirit, soul, and body. That is Pastor's programs. There's never a dull moment with us. So make it a date on Channel 465 as we take you on a smooth journey to cater to all your needs. Love World Plus, Channel 465 on StarTimes.
Why we're here, it's about these three things. We're here because of the man. We're here because of the message. We're here because of the mandate.
Who is the man, Jesus Christ? What is your conviction about his personality and purpose?
Once these three factors are clear to you, you'll be unshakable.
As you listen to this outstanding 3-series DVD, The Man, the Message, and the Mandate, your journey of life will become even more glorious.
What you have to do now is to live for Jesus. You can't live for yourself anymore. If you truly love Jesus, then you must live for him.
This DVD by Pastor Chris is available now. To order, please call the number now showing on your screen. Experience the liquid love of our Lord Jesus Christ flow in and through you. It's also available on the Pastor Chris Digital Library app on the Google Play Store and Apple Store.
Many people long for success. They desire to do something with their lives, to make a difference in society, to become famous, or to become great. We all have the want to move from ordinary to extraordinary, to make the leap from good to great, to turn the seed of greatness that is in us into a fruitful field, and to fulfill the call of God upon our lives. From Reverend Dr. Chris Oyakhilome comes this new and riveting book, The Power of Your Mind. Do you want to do something extraordinary with your life? See, God has given you an excellent tool to use in your journey of greatness. It is called your mind. Learn how to walk in divine excellence through the power of a renewed mind. Get your copy of The Power of Your Mind today.
If we have to give you anything, then we have to give you everything. Love World Plus Channel 465 is simply the best. Because we have something for every member of the family. So dads, keep the team spirit going on with our intriguing sport highlights and reviews. And moms, cooking is never boring when you have our intriguing drama series. And for all your lovely kids, just sit and enjoy. This, and oh this. I told you, we have something for everyone. Because we are indeed all about you. So keep it locked on Lover Plus channel 465 on Star Times.
Great to have you back, and thank you for joining us on another edition of The Agenda. My name is Henry Williams, and don't forget that you can watch us on Star Times channel 465 or online www.loveworldplus.tv. And yes, and now with that out of the way, we can face what is the focus of today's edition of the show. Taking a look at the xenophobic attacks recently in South Africa leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Analysts say what is happening is a burden of freedom that is on South Africa, and that has a lot involved in it, which we'll be talking about. Also be looking at also what's happening, some of the causes of what we face, talking about migration. And African leaders are to blame, according to reports, for irregular migration in Africa, as many African countries are becoming, many Africans seek safer havens or the golden fleece on an El Dorado in other African nations. All right, where do we start here? Well, let me introduce my guest on today's edition of the show. I have with me for the first time on the agenda, gladly to introduce Uwem Akangson. He's a political analyst. Great to have you, Uwem, on the agenda.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks for coming in. And yes, before we begin on this expedition of discussions, let's go to a recent development in xenophobia in South Africa. Some of the developments to bring us up to speed before we go into discussions.
Looting and violence spread across several neighborhoods in South Africa's major cities of Pretoria and Johannesburg on Monday. It follows a spate of overnight attacks which appeared to target foreign-owned shops. At least 50 shops were looted and burned in the southern Johannesburg suburbs of Malvern and Jepstown. Police fired rubber bullets at looters as burnt cars were stranded on the roads.
For me, it's pure criminality, people looting and all that, and using that as a xenophobia. But for now, there is nothing that has sparked any form of this conflict between South Africans and the foreign nationals. So we're dealing with criminality rather than xenophobia at the present moment.
Police arrested 41 people for the violence in Johannesburg, while 8 others were arrested in Tembisi Township, east of Johannesburg, and 1 person arrested in the capital Pretoria, police said. Monday's violence followed similar incidents in Pretoria last week, in which protests led to taxi drivers saw several foreign-owned shops looted and torched. Such violence breaks out sporadically in South Africa, where many nationals blame foreigners for high unemployment, particularly in manual labor. Last week, Human Rights Watch reported that dozens of truck drivers in the country had died in attacks against foreigners since March 2018. The report was released following recent spate of xenophobic violence, fueled by economic decline and record unemployment.
All right, worrisome situation presented there by that report. And yes, the events have continued to unfold with response coming from different countries like Nigeria, who have actually summoned South African envoy to Nigeria on these matters. Other countries have reacted, with Rwanda President Paul Kagame declining invitation to the economic forum, the World Economic Forum taking place in South Africa. Congo as well, the Zambian government refusing to play with the Bafana. So right now, a lot of reactions are coming on the back of this, with tit-for-tat attacks in Nigeria on South African concerns. Well, when this broke, what came to your mind?
Well, firstly, let me say my heart goes out to the Nigerians in South Africa. This was needless. A lot of lives have been lost. A lot of properties have been touched. I saw a carport where over 15, 20 cars were burnt down and they belonged to third parties. This has been happening since perhaps than when South Africa was liberated from apartheid in 1994. On count, this is about the 15th time that we're having such tackles. It's not just xenophobia, as we're calling it, is hate of blacks to blacks.
Black on black hate, right?
And this is terrible, coming at a time like this, and you're killing a lot of people. I saw a young man who was burnt, and he was on flames, and they used a plank to hit him in the course of it. And all this is unnecessary. But historically, how did we get here? I think when South Africa was emancipated from apartheid in '94, they were not doing these menial odd jobs because they just got their freedom and all. And their country's land size is over 500,000 square meters. That's a large.
That's large.
Yes, it's three-quarters.
It's larger than
Nigeria.
about 3 times Nigeria's size.
Right, and they have a population of 57 million people.
That's just
so you see there's a lot of... Now, Nigeria that has about 350,000 square meters of land has over 200 million people. The last census we did was 2006, which was not very credible. I think the credible census we did was 1973, way back. So you see, and when you look at the per capita of the South Africans, it's about $18,000, while ours is about $6,000. And look at the equation. So there is the tendency of people to want to go over there to pick up these other jobs that they are seemingly not doing for them, the artisans and things like that. So over a period, a lot of people have moved there. The money is making more, the rand is getting stronger. I think at some point it was 7 rand to $1 at some point. So you see they have sort of, over the time, over the period, taken over certain cities. And like one of the people said, 80% of the people in a particular city are foreigners. And only 20% of the people are locals. This is bound to...
Should that cause alarm, or should it cause, some anxiety?
Well, maybe we want to look at their immigration laws and things, because before you migrate to a country, there are process and procedures that you need to follow. For some countries, they tell you if you have $500,000 and you want to migrate here to stay, you're welcome. But I think most of the people would have gone on visitors' visas, where you have a short stay. And then they just break out in the place and, Now, when you do that, you're putting pressure on the infrastructures of the place. Because you can imagine a place that was perhaps built for 57 million people is now doing more. So the foreigners are over 10 million and counting. Now, when the infrastructure and the resources is not able to carry everybody, the indigenes are about to cry out because they probably don't have the skills and the things that you have. But this does not excuse, it's not an excuse for why you're killing people and why you are destroying lives and properties. There's a proper process and procedure to follow if people are in your country illegally. And those that are there illegally, if they have committed offenses and crimes against the laws, you prosecute them.
I've been in South Africa, and a lot of people who have had, the opportunity to, travel there have also had some unsavory experience concerning how some South Africans perceive other African nationals who come into their country, especially Nigerians. They see them as a threat, and are visited with, with an unwelcome disposition. I've had to taste a bit of that, even coming from law enforcement. So I'm wondering why, why is this, why this mentality? What is driving this mentality? A lot of people have talked about leadership. Leadership is, has a key role to play in this, because it says it's like oil that's, poured on Aaron's beard. It trickles from the top downwards.
I can speak to that to say that don't forget that the blacks were sort of overrun by the Boers. And they were in this from 1948 and counting. Even the then president had to come to Nigeria for safe haven at some point. Now, being liberated from this, there's still a lot of apprehension of who our masters would be. And, so when you come over to the place and you're taking over what they see as theirs again, so you have not really liberated them from that position where they found themselves, where they were fighting and they were being killed and they were struggling for over a long period of time. Now they have to grapple with another issue of you picking up all the things that were seemingly theirs. That hate spews out again somehow. And now it's being transferred not to the whites now, but to fellow blacks.
Their fellow brothers.
So, and that I would say would be the background to it. But now when you have an influx of people going to a particular country, you want to ask yourself, why? Nigeria in the past, in the 70s and 80s, was also greener pastures.
For other countries.
For other countries. Because if you remember, we were exchanging a pound to a naira in the 70s and 80s. Naira was stronger than the dollar. It was exchanging 78 kobo to a dollar. And so I asked an Indian lecturer then, sir, why are you lecturing in Nigerian university and not in India? You know what his response was? He said, as a senior lecturer, he was earning more than a chief judge in India. And so we were taught by PhD holders out of America. And this was where to be. If you forgot to change your naira to pounds to travel, they say, it's okay, bring it, and you get to Heathrow. That's fine, because of how strong the naira was. But then we started eroding our infrastructures. We didn't have a development plan. We didn't put things in place. And we started plundering our resources. So the decay now started kicking in. Educational system went down, power supply, everything went down the drain. So the new generation that are coming up, they don't seem to see the future that they have. And when they look around them, they see other countries who have better GDP, better per capita income, and all of that.
And that triggers the exodus.
That makes them want to
But
move.
we'll talk more about that.
Right.
But still focusing on the recent development, South Africa's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Bobby Monroe, said reports of the attacks were false initially. And he said he made comments at a media briefing with the Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Ministry headed by Jeffrey Onyema that the attacks were sporadic acts of violence. Adding businesses also belonging to South Africans were attacked. But I think that was refuted by the Chief Executive Officer of South Africa, that is the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, when he had to make a public statement and speech coming out to condemn the attacks and calling for calm. Let's take this soundbite from the President and we'll be right back.
I've directed the Minister of Police to have a meeting at hostels with the Indunas, because this violence is now mutating and taking different forms that represent themselves in a way that we do not want to see in South Africa, where communities seem to be attacking one another. So we want this to stop, and I want it to stop immediately. The people of our country want to live in harmony, and whatever grievance and concerns that people have, we need to handle it in a democratic way. We need to handle it by discussing concerns and problems that we may have. And we've done so very well in the past on a number of other very difficult issues. And this is precisely what we should continue doing. So there is just no justification whatsoever for any South African to go out of their way to attack people from other countries. We need to act in a way where we give respect to people from other countries and show them that they are welcome to be in our country. We need to deal with our own problems in a way where we sit down and discuss those issues with the various structures that we have. We cannot accept sense that South Africans do not welcome Africans or other people from other countries. We cannot do that because we are welcomed in other countries. Right now, we are part of the whole continent having inaugurated the Africa Free Trade Area Agreement. So our drivers are now going to be afraid to drive vehicles in other countries. And there's just
All right, that was President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, speaking and calling for calm on the ugly development of attacks on Africans, African foreign nationals in his country. And one thing he cited was very significant, that the timing of this is quite all right, considering the fact that Africa is gearing up to form an economic bloc. And this has been the vision of the African Union for years. And it seems as if we are inching to the precipice of achieving this, ultimate goal with the West African currency, the ECO, on one side. You have the passport, the African, passport coming up last year. These are, these are very, very, important key things that Africa must get right. So why now?
Okay. If you flash back to when the president was running his campaigns, one of the selling points was that he was going to claim back the jobs of the South Africans that have been taken away by foreigners. And the people cheered. The deputy police minister said something profound. Nobody has challenged him on what he said, that they're looking at 20, 30 years. If the foreigners overrun South Africans, if you have 80% foreigners in a city, if they multiply that over a long period, they're saying that a foreigner might become the president of South Africa. So nobody has rebuked him for that statement. And the police in South Africa, they are very well trained. But if you look at those clips, you would see that they are a little bit aloof. They come in after the fact, and they seemingly are trying to quell
with sound bites
and all of that. So it's something that they condone somewhat, but because of international law and diplomacy, they have to be heard to be saying that this is not acceptable. Now, much as he has made that statement, have you rebuked and you now ask the police minister to work on this when the deputy minister has given you his views and it's gone viral? And nobody has said that what he has said is wrong.
Right. In fact, Uwem, let's take a soundbite from the South African Deputy Minister of Police. Defending these abominable attacks.
Right.
And we'll be right back.
Right.
The question arises, and we must investigate also what is the law of South Africa says. How can a city in South Africa be 80% foreign nationals? That is dangerous. That in Hillbrow and the surrounding areas, South Africans have surrendered their own city to the foreign nationals. The nation should discuss that particular question. You won't find South Africans in other countries dominating a city into 80%. Because if we do not debate that, that necessarily means the whole South Africa could be 80% dominated by foreign nationals. And the future president of South Africa could be a foreign national. We are surrendering our land And it is not xenophobia. To talk truth, we fought for this land. From a white minority, we cannot surrender it to the foreign nationals. That is a matter of principles. We fought for this country, not only for us, for the generations of South Africans. The arms that are being used here in Hillbrow are arms of war, which are unlicensed. The hijacking of buildings here in Hillbrow is a sign of taking over power. The question of dominance of foreign nationals in illegal trading and also businesses that are here in Hillbrow is an economic sabotage that is taking place against our people that were supposed to be those that are running those particular businesses. We are facing here service delivery problems.
All right, the talking there was the Deputy Minister of Police in 2015 defending the attacks then, expressing his phobia, actually. I can see the phobia, the fear going there. There is this fear we're talking about. Let me just read this. It says a research study by Center for Violence and Reconciliation, an issue of xenophobia in South Africa, discovered that 87% of the police in no certain terms believe that all forms of violence and crime in Johannesburg are carried out by illegal immigrants. Now, Mr. Bogani, Michael Nkongi, the current, that's the man who was speaking now, says, look, this is a serious issue. How can a country have 80% of its, residents, Hillsborough,
Yes.
foreigners. That one day you wake up and find out that a foreigner is running the country. Is it a bad thing for a fellow African to come to his brother's country and become, a citizen and, grow through the ranks? We've seen that happening in Nigeria.
Well, listen to that apprehension and you would know that today we have on record that Obama was president of America, 44th president. You'd still hear, you still feel the resentment that a black man who is easily traced to Kenya was their president. It's still there somewhat. Now, although you are going to become a national and you will go through the ranks, go to the school, maybe become a member of parliament and all of that, the people are saying that we don't want to go back to slavery, if you like, where the Boers dominated everything and we were the minorities. So when you come there in droves and you're 80% foreigners, if we draw a trajectory of that in 40, 50 years, what are you going to have? Now, that also speaks to their immigration laws, because you see, sometimes when a country refuses visa, it's not that you don't have the qualities to be granted visa, but because they are trying to regulate how many people go in and out of a country. So some countries you have 3 months, some you have 6 months, visiting visa. Now, so many people don't abide by that. So you go in and you don't go out. So it was just a one-way ticket for you to go in there. And like I said, you're putting pressure on their infrastructures. So you now want to stay there and regularize your papers over a period. Now, if you keep on doing this, you're bringing in more people into the country. And over a period, you would, but you will still claim where your previous national was. Oh, I'm a Nigerian, oh, I'm from Zimbabwe, but I'm now a minister in South Africa, not going to leave.
And you see what's happening in America because of the, a lot of immigrants who have moved into that country. Those immigrants have risen through the ranks. You have Muslims who are now trying to Islamize the
Precisely.
nation
You go to
and voice Muslim values on the
exactly.
nation
So
as
you
well.
go to Heathrow, you see somebody wearing hijab, and she's an immigration officer in Britain. And you say, what's going on here? So if I am a terrorist and this is somebody who is going to check me and she's a Muslim or something, how is she going to react towards me coming from the Middle East or somewhere? So these are some of the concerns. Much as it's not condoned, because you need to make your laws to be able to catch this in the dragnet to ensure
well,
that...
I dare say, isn't that where we are going, to a borderless Africa? If we're going to a borderless Africa, we must begin to set aside tribal, our tribal differences and begin to actually imbibe, a oneness in Africa being...
Yeah, but that does not erode the sovereignty of a nation. It's okay for you to come in there to do business, to intermarry and all of that. You can do all of that. But this is still a sovereign nation. And you want to respect that.
All right, as we move on, before we go for a break, I'd like to take the reactions coming from Nigeria's president and vice, also Foreign Minister Geoffrey Onyema, Foreign Affairs Minister, engaging the envoy to Nigeria on these issues. And we'll be right back. Stay with us.
The South African government has issued a statement, and the head of mission will himself give you information on that. Arrests have been made. But for us, Nigerian government, we are determined that we should not have any recurrence of this going forward. So we have to put in place, we must put in place, and we will put in place mechanisms to ensure that these do not recur. We've made very concrete proposals to the South African government today, and we believe that if those measures are implemented, we have a very, very good chance of ensuring that this does not recur. In the first place, we have to address the issue of compensation. There has to be accountability and there has to be responsibility for compensating all those Nigerians that have suffered loss. And we are going to absolutely push for that. And secondly, we believe that, but I will not go into that much detail on that, but that the two security forces, South African and Nigerian, we can have an arrangement where there will be cooperation on the ground in South Africa to
All right, Foreign Affairs Minister there, Geoffrey Onyema, stating Nigeria's position on the matter, saying, look, the issue of compensation will not be ruled out of this matter, will be on the table. What do you think about that, Uwem?
I think it's a hard sell because accountability has to come in, and I don't know how you will be able to account for all of that and expect that the...
How can you say it's a hard sell?
It's a hard sell. I'll tell you why it's a hard sell. Because this has happened before, and there has been...
Countless times.
Countless times. So where are you going to start to count the losses?
Let's start with this one.
Let's start with this one. So everybody's going to compute what they have lost, and you say, South African government, pay this over to these people. And they're going to tell you some of these people are illegal immigrants. You're going to have, so where would you take this to for you to get that compensation? You want to take it to The Hague? Because if there's a dispute between two countries, you want, or you're going to try it in South African court for you to be paid compensation. So I think it might boil down to sanctions. Like you're seeing, withdrawing the envoy and boycotting.
How is this going to affect relationships with the country?
It would, because I don't think they saw this coming to the extent that people are going to start boycotting a relationship with South Africa, because this was needless. And there's a lot of complicity by the government in overlooking it, because it's happened once too many. But so now when you begin to put sanctions and they begin to realize that we're not, wait a minute, we're not an island, we cannot stand by ourselves on our own. And if we cannot trade and get into business relationship with other countries, we've shot ourselves in the foot.
Well, so a lot of people and some watchers also say this is a failure of leadership on both sides, okay, whether Nigeria or in South Africa. And because one of the reasons is that it has also the cause, there are two issues, the cause and effect, the forced migration and the issue of illegal migration in South Africa. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at this. Don't go away.
Many people long for success. They desire to do something with their lives, to make a difference in society, to become famous, or to become great. We all have the want to move from ordinary to extraordinary, to make the leap from good to great, to turn the seed of greatness that is in us into a fruitful field, and to fulfill the call of God upon our lives. From Reverend Dr. Chris Oyakhilome comes this new and riveting book, The Power of Your Mind. Do you want to do something extraordinary with your life? See, God has given you an excellent tool to use in your journey of greatness. It is called your mind. Learn how to walk in divine excellence through the power of a renewed mind. Get your copy of The Power of Your Mind today.
All right, great to have you back on the agenda. Second part of the show, as we begin to wind down, we've been talking about the xenophobic attacks over the days in South Africa that has spiraled tit for tat in some parts of Africa, like Nigeria, where South Africans' concerns have been attacked. The government has called for calm. One of the reasons, and that many analysts cite for this occurrence, is the issue of forced migration. A lot of nationals from different African countries in search of greener pastures, and because of poor leadership have, migrated to other countries like South Africa. That puts a burden on infrastructure. Let's take this word from a certain development that took place recently in Benin Republic, saying African leaders are fueling the migration crisis, rocking the continent. According to a parliamentarian from Nigeria, Sadiq Ibrahim, he made the assertion recently at the interactive session at the ECOWAS Sensitization Forum on Migration in West Africa. Let's go there. We'll be right back.
Should open an office for registering the youth that may want to go out. First of all, register them if they want to, because most people run away from home. The younger ones run away from home. If you can make them feel that, look, fine, you can go if you want to, but please try to play safe. Try to come back if it is difficult for you, because it is hotter out there. Show them, sensitize them that it's so easy to cross the Sahara. Even if you cross the Sahara, it is not easy to cross the Mediterranean. But most importantly, when they go, if they transport people to Libya, in coming back, they bring in arms. Today, West Africa is no longer safe. There's no road that you can follow. In the past, we come from Nigeria to Niger, we go to Burkina, up to Mali, our business people go there without being molested, without being killed, without being robbed, without being raped. But today, you cannot do that. In Nigeria, you cannot even go to a farm that is a kilometer away from your village. They can kill you. Agriculture is suffering, trade is suffering, industrialization is suffering, simply because we cannot keep the borders safe.
We have to come together to make sure that we eradicate, we pass laws, if really we are serious to make sure that we stop this illegal migration. And also, to end is to fortify our borders. Because if we don't fortify, they will keep coming, they will keep doing all sorts of things. These madams, we should try to trace them. As women, they are our colleagues. They are women. They should stop that, because we are vulnerable. We call ourselves vulnerable, and we are seeking, like ECOFEPA is here, we will work together to make sure if any woman is found sabotaging the plan that we are going to bring up, we'll punish that individual. Because we should start to take the first ball rolling as women. They said.
All right, that soundbite here talking about sensitization forum on migration, West Africa. We talked about xenophobia in the first part of the show, and Uwem kept hammering on those who have entered South Africa illegally and remained there over the years. You were even talking about some people have remained there till they're, you know, in their
60s. They haven't gotten their papers.
And they haven't gotten their papers,
No.
you know, but that forum puts the burden on leadership as a trigger, as, you know, a catalyst for this irregular migration across Africa.
Right. Now, we shouldn't just put out the fire. We should find out what caused the fire. I train young African leaders, YALI, Young African Leaders Initiative, and this was a Barack Obama's project. He said that we have found out that the bane of Africa is the leadership. And if we can get it right with leadership, it will cascade down. Now, look at 40 years of Nigeria. Take it back to 1979 and bring it up to date. You would see that over the years, there have been plundering of these countries' resources over the years. And cost of governance in Nigeria is higher than United States of America today.
That's amazing.
Yes. So what is this saying? That everybody now wants to go into governance because of what you stand to get. But you don't realize that each time you take a 500,000 naira that is not yours, it will come back in 10, 15, 20 years as a boomerang. What do I mean? So the money that, look at the age range of those people being killed. You probably see between 18 and 25, 30. Where should they be? They should be in school. And come back home. Go drive along the streets. You would see little children learning how to clean windscreen of cars to earn a living. Where should they be? They should be in school. Now, why are they not in school? What have you done to the budgetary allocation for schooling for 40 years? If you've seen clips of pictures of children sitting on stones to read, the blackboard is nothing to write home about. So is this the kind of schooling that will bring out leaders of tomorrow that we keep talking about?
While the elites send their children.
Right. You can't even do business without making alternative provision for power supply. I thought back to the 70s, was I hearing generators in houses? And the answer is no, because the national grid and everything was able to supply power. But why are we now, if you move into an apartment, you have to consider power, so you get a generator. So it's a good business to sell. Now, if you look at this and the bits and pieces of it and put it together, you would see that over this period of 40 years, a lot of things have happened that does not give hope, future to the young ones. Drive to Yaba, you would see streets called Harvey Street. The psychiatric hospital, you see how old it was. They put certain things in place, but walk in there and see what you have today. I saw clips of pictures of babies being born in a nursery being put on plastic chairs because there is no bed in the nursery. General hospitals. Now, are you saying that with the wealth of this country over 40 years period, we cannot trickle down funds to various departments and various ministries for it to get down there.
We are focusing on the provision has been made by federal government right now to send a plane to South Africa and bring Nigerians home. And a lot of people are asking, what are they coming home to? These are the questions. Some would rather die there, if I may use that word, than rather come home, based on what, is it better at home? Life short and brutish, as some would say.
Well, you see,
is there any social security net for these people to come back?
Right. Life expectancy in Nigeria is going down every day. And you talk about the pollution and the things that have engulfed the whole place. So you bring them in, you are supposedly supposed to rehabilitate them somewhat to wipe the minds of all of that and then reintegrate them into the society. Where are the jobs that you're going to give them? And you tell your child to go to school and he says, what about these thousands of graduates or graduates that have come out of school that don't have jobs? And you say, go and start a business. Even if there is no job, go and farm, go and do something. Where will you get capital to start that? So the people have sat down to evaluate all of this and say, you know what, if my family can put together some resources for me, I'm going to go to Namibia, I'm going to go to South Africa, I'm going to go to the US and all of that, because if I go there as a security man...
There's a structure in place, so you can grow...
You can grow into a structure, and you're earning $4 to $5, for example, per hour. If you do 3-4 jobs, put it together, and in a month, you're probably talking about $3,000. That's 1-point-something million naira.
And if a person, an ordinary citizen like Obama, an immigrant like Obama, can aspire to the highest level of highest office,
then you have a hope that you can also.
You have a hope, and that is the question here. Can a citizen of Nigeria say, I can start, from where I am and grow and become the president of Nigeria, at this rate? Where we find ourselves.
Well,
isn't that the question that we're asking ourselves now?
Shouldn't
that be the way? I mean, but we have a lot of citizens who want to aspire to that highest level of office. But as you say, there are blockades that have been put in the path. Education, social security, as you said, educational loans are not there. He wants to aspire. He wants to get to that level. Becoming part of a party, he knows he has the kind of money that he will need. Obama didn't need that kind of money to, enter and begin to run for office.
It was very easy in the 70s to get a scholarship to go and study abroad. You didn't need to lobby. You didn't need to know anybody. You just wrote the exam and the list comes out in the newspapers. That's how so many people in the 60s and 70s, their families were poor. They couldn't afford it. But that's how they got education. Those ones who stayed back...
Yeah, they got scholarships. Because I do remember my lecturer, he didn't come from a wealthy home.
Right, but
because he was intelligent, his proficiency, got him a scholarship.
Right.
He went to the United States, became a professor, and came back, and yes.
Right, and you didn't want to stay there because the country that gave you scholarships wants you to go and bring back that foreign technology, that foreign know-how, to improve the lots of Nigerians. I've heard a president who say he had no shoes, but he became a president. Opportunities were there. You could go to school, you could become a lecturer and all. But look at the quality of education we now have. There's a private school where all the students failed their SSCE exams. And the school was worried. Say, what is going on? They got a consultant to find out what the problem was. The consultant gave the same exam that the students took to the teachers, and the teachers all failed. So what are you teaching the children? So yes, it goes to the quality of education you have. You see so many things, they go this trivia program, they go into schools and say, can you spell aeroplane? Can you spell cucumber? And undergraduates cannot spell. That's the quality of education that you now have.
Do you think Nigerians deserve better treatment abroad if they don't get better treatment in their own country?
It's both ways. So now the people back home You need to treat them well for the people outside to say, look what's happening.
Because we see the America First policy.
Right.
First at home, and any American in any part of the world, wherever he is, if there's any issues, first his food.
Oh, yes.
Whatever resources needed is deployed to for his protection.
Right. We have to go back and do a development plan for this country. What has happened in the last 40 years is when you come in with a different agenda. You put aside everything that was done by the previous government.
Follow the blueprint. Okay, they put everything aside.
Put everything aside.
Whether it was good, whether or not.
So, but if we have, and Japan did this in the 70s, and they did a 30 years development plan, and Japan came from nowhere. So if we start there, put think tanks together, Nigerians are one of the brightest people in the world. And that's why we have brain drain. You have a lot of medical doctors today who a medical doctor can bring out a baby from a woman's womb and treat the baby and put the baby back to be born, and he's a Nigerian.
Fantastic.
But if you want him to come back here, he's going to ask you, which hospital is he going to stay to do that? But when you give enabling environment for the people and you're treating the people that are back home, how can you become poverty capital of the world? How can you have over 80 million people under poverty line? How can people not be able to feed? What you saw breaking into the malls, it's just a tip to let you know that there's hunger in the land. And people are not able to sustain anything. So the tension, if you light a match, it will ignite.
It seems as if we're sitting on a keg of
So if we go back, and no matter how high you raise your fences, you're going to come out. So the people are looking, and there's a lot of transferred aggression. Where is all this money going to? If we sell so much crude every day, and we have so much, and we're talking in trillions, how come it cannot get down to the rural areas for the people to take? They're not asking for too much. I can give an example of a local government who was receiving 52 million naira a month from the state, from the federation account. And I asked the local government chairman, this is a very small community. Just one road brings you in here. Why can't you build a model market for the people? He started giving me account of how he spends 52 million every month. And none of it went to the people.
None of it.
None of it. Sometimes you would pay salary after 3 months. So here's the thing. If we don't get back there to realize that each time you do this, it would come back to haunt you one way or the other. We need a reorientation. We need to unlearn these things that when I get in there, so you give somebody an appointment today, he's being celebrated. What is the meaning? We're not celebrating him because he's going there to work. We're celebrating him because he's going there. Look at the array of ministers.
But as our time is fast spent now, rounding off on these issues now, we do have this on ground. A lot of reactions have been taken by different governments on what South Africa has done. But what do you think is the right way to deal with this matter to ensure that Africa remains together and we can forge ahead, considering what is at stake here?
Africa needs to look at its immigration laws and policies again. Because a lot of people that have migrated illegally are unaccounted for. They don't have the statistics or records to know. So it's all over the world.
On both sides.
On both sides. So I've been to South Africa severally, so you can imagine that I decided that I'm not going to come back. Who's going to know? Unless I commit an offense or something that brings me out. I can stay there quietly, maybe do menial jobs or something to get by. And this is what so many people are doing. So you go to school, you do so many things, but you don't have residency in a country. So if we go back to our immigration laws and say, yes, you can come in, but come in legally. Follow the process. If you are coming in as a visitor, you have 3 to 6 months. And if you overstay, we have a process of getting you and getting you out.
Even Nigerians will say, Nigerians would say, oh, what about Nigeria? We have a lot of immigrants coming into Nigeria and nobody's raising an eyebrow.
Yeah,
They're
but
not killing anybody.
the reason why you should be in a country legally is so that the country can provide for you. So when you are there illegally, we don't know that you're there, but you are putting pressure on the infrastructure. You're using the roads, you're using the public system, you're using the hospitals. You're not paying taxes because you are not accounted for as somebody who is working and earning a living. You are there and you're taking and you're probably sending it out to your country. But when the immigration laws are in place and you know that if I overstay, I would be fished out. So you sit down and say, okay, I want to migrate. What do I do to get a visa that enables me to migrate? You're going to hear things like, if you have this size of money to invest, you can come in and within 3 months or so, you'll get your papers. And then you can move in there and pull your family there and do honest business. Some of the problems are people who are going into illegitimate businesses.
Well, that's much we can take on today's edition of the show. I've had with me Uwem Akangson, a political analyst. It's been great having you, Uwem. Thank you so much. Robust discussion we've had today. And yes, so many facts and sides to the story, landing on the fact that, look, we need to have a proper immigration blueprint for African countries. We need to know the numbers so we can prevent, nations can also accommodate the number of people in their countries. Well, that's the much we can take on today's edition. Thank you for staying with us on the agenda. There are other issues maybe you want to react to us. Don't forget, you can reach us on our website at www.loveworldplus.tv or watch us on channel 465 on Star Times. My name is Henry Williams, and until the agenda comes your way once more on another edition, remember that only Africans can build Africa. God bless you.